And I decided I was ready to start talking about it publicly and raise awareness after some stuff that happened in 2018, which will go along with another slide. But I also went ahead and did a lot of research on the subject as it pertains to IT, because some of the stats you will see are kind of staggering when it comes to IT in comparison to the general population. So one quote I got that I don't know where it came from, so it's from Anonymous, is mental health isn't just mental illness, it's just a part of being human. So it's just part of who you are. So, you know, everything you do, whether you're living, you're working or creating or anything that you're doing, your mental health is involved in that. So it's just part of being human. It's part of, you know, it should be treated just like a physical ailment that you would take care of. It shouldn't be stigmatized. Nobody should be telling you shouldn't take medicine or shouldn't go to a therapist or even looking at you differently because you have a condition that needs some help or you're just having a tough time. So what is mental health? So it's the foundations for your emotions. So when your mental health is out of whack, as I put my technical terms in there as my non-mental health professional person that I am, you sometimes get irritable and you'll bite people's heads off, or you get really sad and depressed and you're crying. It affects your thinking, so your head gets cloudy, you can't think as clearly, and you can't think of even what the next thing is that you want to do sometimes. It affects how you communicate, because if you get irritated a little bit, you don't communicate as well, and you can't think as clearly to communicate. Learning wise, how many of us have really learned much this year with the pandemic and as we've been feeling? Because I know I had like a whole thing I wanted to do. I wanted to learn containers. I wanted to get Azure certified. Ain't none of that happened. And we have all this extra free time from not commuting and not being able to go anywhere. And it talks about your resilience. It's how you bounce back from things. You bounce back better when you've got your mental health in place. And your self-esteem, you feel worse about yourself when you feel down and out. So, and it's the key to your relationships, personal and emotional well-being. So when you're doing well mental health-wise, your relationships are going along well. Personally, you feel well, and emotionally, you feel well. So the mental health is very important. And it affects how we think, feel, and act. So no matter if your mental health is down, you're just not going to be able to think as well. You're not going to feel as well, and you're going to act differently. And it determines how you handle stress. You do not handle stress as well as you would if your mental health was good. You don't relate to others as well. Usually you withdraw from people when you're depressed and anxious and stuff, and you make different choices about what you would do. So, but your mental health just makes up is part of making up your whole self and how you enjoy life. Without your mental health being intact, it's very hard to enjoy life at its fullest. As far as positive mental health is when you can realize your full potential. You can sit there and say, oh yeah, I can pass that Azure exam, or I can learn containers just by putting together this plan, and you're ready to go full on at this whatever project you've set in front of you. You cope with the stresses of life better. You know, curveball gets thrown at you. Yes, it stresses you out a little bit, but you're able to motivate around it and not have it pull you down because you're intact, so to speak. You work more productively, so you get your tasks done because you're not distracted by what's going on in your life. You make meaningful contributions to your communities. Usually you might volunteer more, you help out your neighbors more, you notice the little things in life that can help somebody. You might hold a door open for somebody. When you're depressed and your mental health's down, you just ignore stuff like that. So in general, the mental illness population in the U.S., 25% of people will report that they've had a mental illness condition in the last year. And this is mainly depression and anxiety, not the chronic conditions. But that's a staggering number by itself. Some sources say 1 in 5 people instead of 1 in 4, but either way, 20%, 25%, that's a lot. A survey of IT people says 42%. That sounds even more terrible. That's almost double. If you look at the UK, that goes up to 48. I wonder what they do to the people in UK. 2/3 of the respondents in there said they're stressed at work, while 52% say they struggle with anxiety and depression at some point. And the people just report long periods of stress, and they highlight this as a big problem and stuff. So 13% of the people said they're constantly stressed with symptoms such as anxiety attacks, headaches, and continued tiredness. And it all affects your ability to work. And I'm sure that, you know, that's true with anybody that's affected by these things. They're just constantly tired and stuff. Here's a general list of mental health disorders. Mostly what we're going to be talking about is just anxiety and depression, because that's stuff that can be caused by your working conditions. Most of the other things are things that are chronic conditions that you would get help with and work around. Even ADHD, it affects your work. Everything affects your work that's on this list, but you get more help with those things, and they're not caused by your work. So a little bit more about why I'm speaking out now instead of supposedly, like, you know, 5 years ago or even 20 years ago when I received my first diagnosis, is from personal experience. A lot of people feel guarded and are afraid when they want to speak, but I gained a lot of personal experience in the last 25 years after being diagnosed with bipolar and going through a lot of depression and going through a lot of stress at work. And I'm tired of the stigma that people have to go through with having a mental health condition. They're just, you know, there's no reason for someone to feel alone just because they don't feel right. There should be people supporting them. And then I looked at the stats for IT, and I was like, wow, this is a good topic for Sequel Saturday. Maybe if people will take it. And well, so far it's taken off really well. So a little bit about my story. The debacle of 2018. This was the fun summer. It turned into a fun year. So I started a new job in June, which took and laid off 2/3 of the people in the company, leaving us with like 10 people. But subsequently, 3 people quit and found other jobs. And I was in a car wreck in a rental car in LA like the next week because I was at a Sequel Saturday, and this boxcar truck came and smashed into me and made me spin and do a 180. And I had a crisis with a friend that I was helping them out with, and I was traveling and doing 2 Sequel Saturdays a month while trying to learn this new job. So I had all these stressors that came upon me at one time, and I had a lot of anxiety just about changing the job to begin with, because, you know, am I making the right decision? And then they laid people off. Does a company of 8 people really need like a full-time DBA? How long before they lay me off? You know, 2, or, you know, get the database to the point where they're happy enough to say, hey, we don't need you anymore. It's running fine, because the thing used to be on fire, and by the time I left, it wasn't on fire. So I spun into mania after I was depressed for a little bit with my bipolar, and actually landed up in the psych ward, which was not fun. But it took me a year to get completely stable at doing this. So, and we talked about my diagnosis of bipolar and PTSD, and I mainly stayed depressed, but my work stressors over the years have been being on call. I had a job where I was on call every 3 weeks, but my coworkers rarely answered their pager, leaving me with on-call shifts basically all the time and no sleep. And then it got to the point where we had this one system that was for customers to be able to order stuff 24/7, and I was the only person on call for that system, the only one. So it's like, you know, I'm toting a computer around, taking my kid to a basketball game, and can't do anything else, and because other people don't know how to answer the phone. Then I transitioned to a job that had 24/7 uptime for everything. So the pressure is there not to mess up anything, because you got 5 nines. So that causes you a little bit of anxiety if you're not used to that high pressure environment. And I was working to 2 a.m. to do upgrades to new versions of SQL Server, but I was using my bipolar superpowers there with my insomnia to stay awake to do that. And then I was doing a lot of development work with PowerShell and automating stuff, and I was getting a little burnt out doing that because I was doing some of the same things over and over again. And then I've had a few layoffs over the years. So all of those things have caused me stress over the years to cause me to get depressed and have my mental health get affected. So those are my stories behind things that have happened. Specifically, there'll be other random stories as we go through some other stuff. So some more stats that we should know about is 86% of people would not discuss their mental health with their employer at all. That's a lot of people that would not tell their boss anything that's going on, and their boss would be wondering why this person keeps missing work, why they can't perform as well as their coworkers, and stuff like that. So, you know, that's a big chunk, and it's because of the stigma. You don't know what your boss is going to say and how they're going to react. Who can blame you? 44% of people are not aware of what healthcare coverage they have when it comes to mental health. That can be a problem because if you want to get help, you don't know if you can or not, and you don't want to ask your employer. So then you're kind of stuck with not getting any help, and then you're on your own, and then it doesn't go as well as it could go if you could be open and ask and stuff. So, and 63% say the employer has not formally discussed mental health. So when your company tells you about benefits or has all hands-on meetings, they don't even mention the mental health benefits or the fact that they're running a fundraiser for things like this or anything like that. My company happened to sponsor someone who was running a 5K in the UK for depression. So we mentioned it, and recently we've gotten some more mental health benefits where we get 6 counseling sessions because of COVID. They added this like last month to our benefits so that we can do more. So these are things that companies should be doing to help out their employees so they can do them, and have employee assistance programs for employees to be able to do things, because as we'll see towards the end of the section, that it helps the employers to be able to do that. More stats. Based on depression and anxiety, $1 trillion is lost to productivity globally throughout all the world. So that's a lot of money. 210.5 billion is just depression alone. 69 billion is due to suicide. So when someone commits suicide, not only are you losing that person, you're losing productivity around the people that know them at work, and they're having to cope with that loss as well, and you're having to rehire an employee and retrain them. And it's the 10th leading cause of death in the US and the 18th worldwide. This is a point where I have to say, and I'll probably have to say it again, if you're ever thinking about doing this, please call a hotline, please call a friend, please call someone, get some help. 80,000 people die from suicides a year. That's for every death, there are 20 attempts. So that's a suicide, that's a person every 40 seconds. So again, please call a hotline or a friend and get some help if that ever comes up as an issue. There are some people in the Sequel family community that have put out on Twitter, besides me, that you can DM them anytime and they're open to talking. And if you're part of Twitter, you can reach out to them. Hamish Watson, who's in New Zealand, so you can talk to him in the middle of the night because he's awake all night while we're sleeping. Steve Jones, who runs SequelCentral.com. Anders Peterson, he's had some experience with suicide in his family. So, like I said, please seek some help. There are hotlines to call in most major countries. We're in the US, so there's definitely a hotline to call here. Plan ahead of what you're going to do as far as getting help. If this is something that you think about frequently, have a plan of action as to who you can call first, and have 4 or 5 people you can call just in case someone doesn't answer the phone. And tell your friends ahead of time what you want to do as far as getting help. If you want to go to a particular hospital, or you want them to call your therapist, or what type of help you would like for them to get if things get bad enough, give them an action plan that they can carry out with you. And if you have a doctor or therapist, give them a call. they can help you out. This is the WHO Mental Health Suicide Rate Map for 2018. So it shows you which countries, based on the darker it is, the more suicides that happen. So Russia's really bad. The US is behind them. And then Europe's in there in the middles with us, and Australia's the same as us. So the lower countries don't seem to be as bad. So China doesn't seem to report anything probably. So that's my vote based on how the pandemic's been going. So some work causes of getting depression or anxiety. One is just plain old stress. It doesn't, you know, you get stress from home, but we got the stress of keeping systems online 24/7 and not being able to make mistakes. I know I'm terrible about Slacks on my phone. If it dings, I look at it. I've taken email off my phone. I would normally, if I was in a class, I'd ask people, you know, how many of you look at your email on the weekend when you're not on call? Because we're always connected. We should disconnect when we can, so we're not worried about things at work. Burnout, working on the same thing over and over and over again. If you find yourself doing this, try to talk to your boss about working on something different. Being harassed by people, not just sexual harassment. There's other types of harassment that can happen at work, and we'll go over a few of those. And being bullied at work. Believe it or not, work can be sort of like high school. It's kind of sad. So stress and burnout. The poll of 11,000 people, 56% of people reported they were stressed and burnout. And if you go to burnoutindex.org, you can actually take a little poll and see if you qualify as stressed and burnt out. I was really surprised when I did take it back in December that I was. I didn't realize I was, so I had to tone down some things. So as far as stress and burnout goes, you know, being on call all the time is very stressful. I even find it stressful during the pandemic because I can't leave the house at all when I'm on call. We have to be on the computer within 5 minutes. So there's like, you can't be driving your car and get on the computer in 5 minutes. And now I have 2 computers. I have one just for communicating, email, Slack, and one to get into the production servers. So it's like I can't get 2 computers up fast enough to get in. Then I gotta make sure I can actually fix the problem without messing up anything in our 5.9 scores. And then there's the constantly checking emails, Slack, Teams, whatever messaging that we're working. Meeting deadlines, you know, sometimes you end up working overtime to meet deadlines because you're stressed out and trying to get things done, and the deadlines are unrealistic maybe, and that ends up pouring on stress on you. We talked about constantly being on. Stress and burnout usually is only caused by prolonged intense stress. So it has to happen for a long period of time before you hit the burnout phase. And you're usually feeling a lack of control because you're not able to control what you're working on at work and what your work environment's like. So I always suggest that if things are going on at work that you don't like if you're having trouble meeting a deadline, always talk to your boss about it. See if someone can pitch in and help. If being on call is a problem where you need a day break for something, especially if you're the only one there, you know, or 2 people, you know, work with that person to switch things out. Turn off your emails when you don't have to be on them. Turn off Slack, Teams, remove them from your phone if you can on the weekends and reinstall them on Monday or something, or turn off the alerts or whatever you got to do so you don't see them during the week. Harassment and bullying. Yelling and rude comments. I've received a few of these over the years. I used to have a coworker that I trained him, he got promoted before me. And then I got promoted, and then we were same level, but he still yelled a lot. Anytime there was a problem on the system, he would come over there and go, "What's going on?" And he just would be yelling to the point where other people would go and tell my boss that he was yelling at me. So it wasn't just my perception of it. Then I had people making rude comments. Back when Michael Jackson was going through his court hearings for what he did with children or might not have did with children, I wear white socks and black pants to work. when I had to work in the office. Now I don't have to. And they were saying, "You look like Michael Jackson." To me, that was a rude comment. You know, don't compare me to other people. Don't talk about the way I dress. I look perfectly fine for an office environment. I'm in dress clothes and my socks are dress socks. So what's the big deal? So, but you can be picked on for a lot of different things. Making fun of colleagues. We used to have this manager that was shorter than me. I'm 5'3", and he was a male. So all the other managers, who were all males, used to pick on him because he was so short. Like, that's just rude and not necessary. You know, picking on anybody for their age, height, what they're wearing, what they eat, anything like that is just not right. You've got, of course, sexual harassment. Everybody knows the deal behind that. That's just not appropriate at work, talking about things like that. I got sexually harassed at PAST the first year I talked there. And it was not fun at all because I ended up with the guy following me around PAST for 2 days. And don't mess with anybody's religion. We had a coworker one time that because of his religion, he couldn't eat certain foods, and the foods he ate, people said didn't smell good at his desk, and they complained about it. And it's like, you know, they didn't smell that bad because I went in their cubicles and I smelled it. And I couldn't smell anything. It's just they were just hypersensitive to him and his religion and the things he wouldn't do because of his religion and stuff. And it's just one of those things is just none of their business to talk about. So the way your mental health can affect you if it starts sliding down the scale is it can make you sad or irritable. It doesn't necessarily have to put you in bed where you can't get up, but it can make you irritable and energize you too. So you can go either high or low. You don't necessarily have to be depressed and in bed, but you can actually hit a high mark as well before you hit a low mark. You can have excessive fears and worry and anxiety, so you can overthink things and be worried to death about how everybody's going to think about something and overanalyze things. And somebody said this yesterday, and I'm thinking about this today, and you're still thinking about when you go to bed at night and you can't fall asleep, and, you know, all those things going on. And you start pulling away from people and activities, which is, you know, with COVID going on right now, is like you don't have much choice there. But we've got to start, you know, using our phones and texting and Zooming and emails and staying in contact with people. Don't pull away from people and things that you like to do as much as you can with COVID going on. And your sleep and eating habits change. You start sleeping more or sleeping less, eating more, eating less. Those type of things will happen when you start, your mental health starts sliding. And you'll have trouble concentrating. This is one of the big ones that triggers me that I notice is going on. I don't really notice the other ones as well. But when I start not being able to get things done at work without making an extensive to-do list with the teeny tiniest, the littlest of things on there, I know I'm not concentrating as well, then I know I need to change something. So over the years, I've had some negatives and positives about how it's affected me. You know, I've missed work. I've had to be out of work for the hospital one time. I've had to be out just because of stress a couple of times. The doctors wrote me a note to be out. I've had plenty of times where I just cannot focus on anything. I'm just staring into blank walls, into space, not concentrating on a thing in the world, worried about everything else in the world, and just can't bring myself to do anything. Lack of motivation. Some positives, sometimes I get the extreme energy. I especially get that when servers are down. When servers are down, I'm usually like explosive with energy, and I can react really well in those situations. And I think that's from how I was raised. I was under a lot of stress when I was raised, so when I was a kid. So I'm going to bring this up in a bigger form, but this is a little bit of a self-evaluation we're going to go through. This is something new I added to the slide. This comes from a firefighter's manual or a first aid manual, and it goes from how you're doing from thriving, surviving, struggling to in crisis. And it just gives you some of the things that you can feel. So we're going to run through this, and then it'll be at the end of the slide deck too. That way when you download the slide deck, you can find it more easily. So thriving means you got this. So you're calm, you're steady, you got your mind and mood reflections. You're able to take things in stride. You're consistent with your performance. You're able to take feedback, adjust to changes in plans. You're able to focus. You're able to communicate effectively. You got normal sleep patterns and appetite. That doesn't describe me, by the way. I hope it describes some of you guys. Surviving. We're in a pandemic, so most of us are probably at least in the surviving mode. I doubt any of us are in the calm mode. We might be. If you are, I'm really happy. But most of us probably have some nervousness going on with, COVID. We can't leave the house and stuff to do anything. Sadness, increased mood fluctuations and things like that going on. You might have some inconsistent performance at work or even at home trying to keep your house clean. You're more easily overwhelmed with things that are going on or irritated, like you can't take the news as much as you could before or as many tasks going at work. You have an increased need to control things, so you need people not to change things on you as much, and you're having trouble sleeping or eating. You're also, not enjoying your activities and relationships as much as you used to, or you even just find them stressful. And you got a lot of muscle tension and low energy and headaches. And this is just where you're just trying to keep up with what's going on at this point. So this is the survival mode. So let's figure out if you're in this mode. That's the yellow mode. Now we move to the orange mode where we're struggling and I can't keep up. This guy in the field here he's probably there. This is where your fear is pretty persistent, like you're scared to death of something's going to happen. You've got panic attacks, your anxiety, you're angry, your sadness is on, you feel hopeless. I felt this way through the pandemic for a few months just because I'm personally tired of being at home all the time. I need to be around people to feel better, to feel like something good's going on. You feel just exhausted. I don't do anything. I feel exhausted. All I do is work my 8 hours and sit on my couch and I feel exhausted. So I'm definitely, at least in this category. Poor performance and difficulty making decisions or concentrating. I've got this one. So yeah, I make a long to-do list so that I can perform better. And I just try not to make decisions. And my long to-do list helps me concentrate. And you got fatigue, aches, and pains. And I do feel tired a lot, so there goes my fatigue. I don't have any aches or pains, though. So what else do we have if we're struggling? We avoid interactions with coworkers, family, and friends. Oh, that's easy for me. I just do that naturally. We're restless and disturbed sleep. I've got that. Self-medicating with substance, food, or other numbing activities. I can skip that one. I don't have that one. At least I can skip one. So the last one is we're in crisis mode. I'm in crisis and I can't survive this. You're disabling distress and loss of function. I'm not there yet. I'm not having panic attacks. You could be. Nightmares or flashbacks, unable to fall or stay asleep, intrusive thoughts like thoughts of self-harm or suicide, easily enraged or aggressive, you making careless mistakes or inability to focus at work, feeling numb, lost, or out of control. You're withdrawing from all your relationships, and you're depending on substances, food, or other numbing activities to cope. So looking at those 4 categories, kind of think about where you're at and see if you need to talk to somebody and get some help in improving and trying to get into that green category where you're more at peace and at rest with what's going on with society, now with COVID, with work, with home, with everything, because everything is stressful right now with the pandemic. I've got 10 ways to help you avoid burnout in IT. One is to take some time off. Hopefully we have some PTO. We can't take vacation. Well, we don't have anywhere to go on vacation, so hopefully we have vacation time to take. Identify your stressful task and try to set up a time that's like you just do those particular tasks. That's not, that way you can knock them out and do them. and talk to your boss about why they're stressful and see if you can get some help with them. Unplug at the end of the day. Turn your computers off. If you're not on call, turn them off. At least turn the monitors off if you don't want to turn the computers all the way off. Don't check your email. Don't check your Slack. Don't check your Teams. Don't check any other form of communication you may have. Do eat well and exercise. I've started eating better lately because I eat terribly, and get out for maybe a 30-minute walk a day. Those things, that's one thing we can do even though all our gyms are closed. Socialize with people. We have access to Zoom. We can at least do Google Meet, or you guys can socialize here before we start talking. Get on anything, WhatsApp, start talking to people, call them on Facebook, do something besides not talk to people outside your house. And develop an escape plan for yourself, something you can do that lets you escape. I have a gazebo at my apartment complex that sits up at a volleyball court that's nice to sit out in the morning, except now it's too cold to do. But it's nice to watch the sunrise there. So I used to go out there when it was warm and just sit out there for 30, 45 minutes and just enjoy the peace and quiet and listen to the birds. So have a place you can go that's peaceful and you don't feel as stressed out. And you can develop a place like that at work as well, if you have to go back to an office space when you come back. And do get plenty of sleep. Make sure you're getting enough sleep. That always helps with feeling better. And cross-train people. If you're doing too much of one thing, try to get other people to want to do what you're doing, and you do what they're doing, and then you won't get as burnt out because you'll be working on separate tasks. You won't be working on the same thing all the times, and then someone can back you up as well, and that makes it less stressful. And learn to say no. I mean, sometimes you gotta tell your boss you can't do stuff. He may not like to hear it, or she may not like to hear it, but they gotta learn sometimes, you've got too much on your plate and you can't do any more right at this moment, or you're gonna be in this burnt out category and not have much use to them. So some ways we can take care of ourselves is, we've already talked about this: eat well, exercise, and sleep. 3 very basic things. But we can also develop a hobby away from the computer, something we can do away from the computer that we enjoy doing. I personally like doing origami. Of course, I run out of things to make that I haven't already made, so I get bored with it fairly fast if I do it too much. But I'm trying to learn a different hobby, so I have something I can do away from the computer. But you can use it to spend time with friends 6 feet away right now. I think we're still at 6 feet. You can go get a massage. Get away from social media some, because like right now, Twitter is bad to be on if you have anything to do with past. News is bad to look at because of COVID, except we have vaccines coming, but then you have Trump not conceding the election. So with winter being here, invest in light therapy. You can put a light on your desk that can give you some vitamin D rays, so you don't have the problem with seasonal affective disorder, which kind of gives you depression during the winter time, and that helps keep your vitamin D up. Do some relaxation training, which is just some meditation or just being able to release thoughts out of your mind and clear your mind and be able to be at ease. And do spend time with family and friends. I know we can't do it in person with COVID, but we can at least do it through the computer and through our phones. If these problems are occurring at work, ways you can get help is, first, talk to your boss about people that are stressing you. If you're stressed and burnt out about your workload, talk to your boss. If people are harassing you, you should talk to your boss. If your boss doesn't do anything, go to HR about people harassing and bullying you. They should not be doing this. Now, if you're just having stress in general and you don't want to go to your boss about it, talk to a friend. See if they can help you work it out. Sometimes just talking to somebody is better than doing nothing about it. And always find somebody that just is good at listening and not good at trying to fix things for you. And then you can always see a therapist too, because Personally, I think everybody should see a therapist at some point in their life, because there's always something that somebody can give you a different perspective on that can be helpful in different situations in your life. And they do have like BetterHelp.com, Teledoc, and all these things where you can do it online right now. And sometimes you need a doctor so you can get medication. So you might need to get a professional that can help you out with that spot. And you won't need medication forever, most likely. So it's not the end of the world if that ends up being the path that you have to take. Some things you can do to help a friend or a coworker that is you see struggling is when they're talking to you, listen to them non-judgmentally. Don't judge what they're saying. Just listen and be supportive of what they're saying, and try to offer them advice that's easy to take. Some of the things that we've said here, and don't tell them that they're doing things wrong and things like that. Ask questions that show you care. Be very patient with them. A lot of people that are depressed and anxious don't sometimes when they're talking, they don't say everything, and it's hard to get them to speak out, and you don't want them to withdraw because you're pushing too hard. And don't be critical of what they're saying, and tell them that that's not the way it is, it doesn't work that way and stuff like that. This is their point of view, so their point of view is valid, whether you see it that way or not. Their point of view is what they're seeing. And then if you think a friend is having trouble, like you haven't seen a friend on Twitter in a while, like I've been doing lately, is checking in on the friends. If they've withdrawn from you, check in on them and see what they're doing. Don't be confrontational with them, and be honest about their concerns. If you think that something's going on and they're not talked about, just ask if they need help in a certain area. Just don't ask how they're doing. Ask them how they're really, really doing, and try to get them to open up to you. And if you think they should see a professional, offer to take them to see a professional or help them find somebody. Some things not to say to people, because all these things have been said to me. Pull yourself together. See, I can pull my jacket together and it'll all go away. Snap out of it. I love the fact that people think you can like snap your fingers and things will be all better. My church friends like to say, just pray about it. Now, I believe in prayer, but I also believe in medicine and talking to somebody. And don't compare someone's illness to their illness, because usually everybody's situation is different, even if it's the same illness or the same. As one person has depression, they usually have it for two different reasons. So to compare minimalizes that person's experience. Don't tell them to just distract themselves. Like, go over here and read this book and it'll go away, or something like that. Don't tell someone that they're on medications that they don't need medication. That's weird. One screen's still presenting and the other one's not. What happened? Okay, that was weird. I don't know if y'all seen that, but it glitched.
We're all good to go now.
Okay, the presenter screen stayed the same. It was really weird. And really weird. Okay, don't tell them to stop acting crazy. Calling somebody crazy is not a good thing. Us crazy people like to use it for ourselves. Just kidding, we don't like it either. Don't tell them to just not worry about it. Somebody that's very anxious and worried about something, if you tell them just don't worry about it, you make it sound like their concerns aren't valid. Try to talk them down rather than just flipping it off with one comment. Don't tell someone that's depressed and really down to just cheer up. They're just not going to do it on their own that quickly. You're going to have to talk to them and do more than just give them a thumbs up. Therapy is for weak-minded people. This is my favorite one because my dad told it to me. My dad will never see this video. I'm not worried. Things will be better in the morning. Sleep on it. Things will be better in the morning. Yep. And stop focusing on the bad stuff. while in itself, this is not bad advice, it's very hard for somebody that's anxious and depressed not to think about the bad stuff. You can try to talk to them about good things, but telling them not to think about the bad stuff, to me, just makes me think more about bad stuff. So, things you can say to people, these are more helpful. Tell them they can be honest with you and tell you anything. That way they'll open up and tell you what's going on, and you can be more helpful that way. Ask them if they want to go for a walk, because most people that are depressed and stuff don't get any exercise. And standing side by side with somebody, people usually open up more than sitting at a table across from each other. So that gives you a good way to get them to be open when they're talking to you. If they're in treatment of any kind, you can ask them how it's going, if there's something they've confided in you with, and just check in with them. Ask them if you can help them find help if you think they need it. And ask them how they're really doing when they're, when you think something's wrong and they're not telling you everything. Ask them if they want to go out and do something. Maybe not right now with COVID, because you guys stay 6 feet apart with the mask and COVID's everywhere, but eventually. Tell them how glad you are to have them in a life, and that you're glad that they're your friend, and, remind them of, the fact that they're important to you. And remind them of some good times that you've had, and, reminisce about stories and stuff, and that takes their mind off of what's going on currently and might put them in a better mood if you can bring up things that have happened in the past that were good. So now we're going to move into the section about what employers can do to help achieve wellness. One is to create open vacation policies. Having more vacation time, people don't take all their vacation time anyways. Like, our company gave us our birthday off, and because nobody took our birthdays off, I did. They changed it into a MTO day instead of whatever it was. So it's like a day that means something to you. You can take off at any time. And I'm just like, people seriously did not take their days off. I'm like, I take all my hours. I'm like, no. Offer flexible work arrangements. If somebody's having a hard time, or just in general just is not a morning person, let them come in an hour late and work an hour late. Let them go to doctor's appointments when they need to. I had a workplace that said you had to go to doctor's appointments during lunch, and my doctors took lunch, so it was very difficult to meet that arrangement. Honor the 40-hour work week as much as you can. Working 11 plus hours a day doubles the risk of somebody getting depression. You start losing your cognitive abilities after 55 hours in a week. And that starts showing up in poor vocabulary, reasoning, information processing, problem solving, your creativity, and your reaction times. So you think about driving when it comes to reaction times, or trying to fix something on a computer when your problem solving skills aren't there and your reasoning's not there. And it can be a predictor for early dementia and death, working too much. So, all things we don't want to do. Respect people's boundaries. If they need to leave the office at 5, don't give them a hard time about it. If they need to be off the computer at 5 because they've got family, let that be what it is, and don't give them a hard time about it. I know I've worked at places where, they always made fun of the people who had kids because they couldn't work as many hours, and, they respected the people that would work more hours. It's not the way it should be. It should be respected based on our work, not everybody working 50, 60, 70 hours a week. Reconsider open office plan, because people get distracted more in an open office plan. You'll notice more people actually wear noise canceling headphones in an open office plan than they ever did in cubicles. Women feel more sexually harassed in an open office plan and feel more judged and watched from being in an open office plan, because everybody can see them and they feel like they have to dress up more if they're in an office space that requires you to be dressed up. And make sure you're offering, comprehensive health insurance that includes mental health as well. You can also educate yourself and learn to develop empathy. There's a link at the end of the slide deck for a website called Workplace Mental Health Topics, where you can go through the different mental health conditions that we've seen at the beginning and learn about them so you can educate yourself on them and be able to help people better with them and understand what's going on. You can provide accommodations for employees. Most of these health conditions, especially if they're chronic, actually fall under the ADA, the Americans for Disabilities Act. That was passed back in the 70s. So you have to provide accommodations for some people, and some accommodations are just as simple as noise canceling headphones because they find it very distracting. Letting them work from home a little bit more, which now everybody's working from home, but modifying their work schedule a little bit, giving them a different way to organize things. I know someone who has ADHD that functions better with sticky notes. He just doesn't do JIRA and ticketing systems as well as he can sticky notes on a wall or on his desk. Simple things like that. And taking mental health days for your PTO, lead by example, set your own healthy boundaries as a boss. Don't be working all the extra hours, because that shows your employees that you're expecting them to work all those hours. If they see you working those hours, they think they got to keep up with you. Practice your own self-care and ask for your own help if you need it. Now, employers gain a lot of stuff by helping their employees, by providing the mental health and by letting employees talk about it. They get improved attitudes towards mental health and decreased stigma around mental illness in the office space, which makes everybody more open and easier to talk with about issues. The employees are more engaged at work. They're more productive and creative because their issues are being dealt with. They have an overall sense of well-being because they feel more like they belong at work because they know other people that have issues, probably if it's a more open office space. They trust their workplace more when they know mental health is an important piece of their work environment. They are satisfied more with the leadership, the CEOs, and the C-level people. They have better interpersonal relationships with the people that they work with. They have more commitment and loyalty towards the company that's helping them with this stuff. And you get a decreased inefficiency and errors, so we're more productive and we don't screw up as much. And we come to work more. We're not as absent as we were before. We're not having to take PTO. And we stay employed there longer because we like the job, because we're not getting burnt out and stressed as much as we were at other jobs that we bailed on because they burnt out and stressed us out. And that $1 trillion that they were losing, they're not losing it as much as they are now because we're not missing work and we're being more productive. And the good news for the employees is that 80% of the people that were treated report improvements. So that's, 1 in 5 right there. So that's turning around that whole statistics for the normal population and getting it back down to normal levels for us in IT. So, okay, now we're on to surviving the darn pandemic section. So this is a special section I added just for the pandemic because it's very stressful. It's going to go over 7 areas of mental well-being that you can nurture while working in self-isolation. Some of it's going to overlap with advice that I've already given. Sorry about that. There's just no way it couldn't. So the first thing is to nurture staying connected to people. Schedule social events. I have a Zoom happy hour that I have with some people in the SECO community on Fridays. I have one with my sister on Thursdays that we just started. My small group meets at church still via Zoom. Different things like, and we've got this meeting that you guys are having once a month. You guys chat before the meeting, so that's get in early, chat, talk to people. Just don't write to people. Don't just text and WhatsApp and Slack people. Try to get on the phone or do some screen sharing, be on video with people. It's good to see people's faces, hear people's voices. Check in on others, people that you hadn't heard from in a while. Check in on them, see how they're doing. and share your experiences with people. If you're going through a hard time, they probably are too, especially with the pandemic going on. The second area is to try to remain calm. Don't panic. Don't go out and buy all the toilet paper. As for the crazy folks, no, I'm just kidding. I still can't believe we ran out of toilet paper, but whatever. Right now, I think we're out of bacon bits at my store, so I don't know what's up with that. Maybe someone else does. But just don't panic. Everything's going to be fine if we follow the CDC guidelines and we stay at home. Vaccines are coming, and we just try to stay healthy and we stay away from people that are going to be sick and get it more contagiously. And if we stay away from people and we don't get it, we won't give it to people that we're worried about. And hopefully people will start wearing their masks like they're supposed to. And turn off the news. There's no reason to watch the news all day long, not even for 30 minutes. I'd watch it for like 5 minutes, check out the local news, see what's going on locally and maybe nationally for a little bit, or read a trusted website like the WHO's website or the CDC's website to see what's going on, and nothing else. That's all I do to stay up to date. I don't watch any news. Just don't do it to yourself. And do something for yourself that will help you stay calm. Anything, go out for a run or a walk, read a book, clean your house. If you trust being out and about, get a massage, get a haircut, go to the gym, things like that, depending on how bad COVID is in your area. The other thing we want to nurture is staying happy. So one thing that can help us with that is getting outside if we can. Fresh air is wonderful. Sunshine is wonderful. Snow is wonderful, even for you people that have snow. You can make snowballs and throw them at people, or just, set up cans and throw them at the cans and knock them off and see how good of an aim you have. It'd be funny to do that. Get some exercise. Try to, 30 minutes a day of walking will help you out there. Accept that you aren't perfect. There's pandemic's just terrible, and it's bringing out all kinds of sides of people that they're not used to seeing because everybody's trapped at home with their kids and their wife all day long, or their husband, and you're not used to working from home, and things just aren't going to be perfect. You're not going to be perfect. It's just the way it is. Try to look for the positives. What I've tried to do is write down 3 things that are positive that have happened the day before the next morning, because I forget at night, and try to keep that in mind as things go on. Practice mindfulness. I've downloaded the Calm app, and I use the little 10 minutes that it has there, and I sit there and I meditate and I listen to her tell me what to do and read off some quotes and stuff, and it just helps keep me calm for 10 minutes, and it gives me the ability to be calm and available for what I need to do. One thing you want to be able to do is cope well. So set boundaries between life and work. Like I said, if you can, have a designated work area so you're not always seeing your computer. Don't look at your email 24/7. Establish a routine as close to what you had before. I know somebody that's actually using their exercise time as their commute time. So they're walking like 30 minutes around the neighborhood and back to their house and pretending like that's their commute to work. Take breaks. You aren't at your desk 8 hours a day at work, so why would you be at your desk 8 hours at home straight? I'm very bad about this, I'll admit. But I try. Well, I have reminders in my calendar. I'm not even going to go with try anymore. I used to try. But I have reminders in my calendar to get up every hour and walk around. And I'm not doing it right now. And I should be, so I can get away from the computer and feel better about things. Your health is very important. So your physical and mental health are intertwined. So if you're mentally off, you're going to be physically off. So keep both of those good to go. And again, go outside if you can. Those are very helpful. Get some exercise. If it's too cold to go outside and exercise, there's videos that are available online from a lot of gyms that couldn't do anything during COVID, so they made a lot of stuff available online. So you can go on YouTube and do something for 30 minutes. Use some meditation or yoga. Eat healthy. Try to eat something besides pizza. That's what I had last night though. So I try most days. Get some sleep. Stress has a tendency to mess us up badly. I'm waking up at 4 and 3 in the morning. Part of that's the cat wanting to be hungry at 4 in the morning. Some of that's just because that's what time I'm waking up. Try not to work from your bedrooms, because when you work in your bedroom and you try to go to sleep at night, you'll be thinking about the computer that's in your bedroom, and you'll be thinking about work. You'll be thinking about anything you do in your bedroom during the day. So, and stay off your work stuff after hours. If you don't have to be doing stuff after hours, just don't do it. At 5 o'clock, shut it down. Be done with it. Try to stay within 40 hours, 45 at the most during the week. Relax session is to try to feel fulfilled. So our productivity can feel down when we're working remotely because we're not used to doing it and we're used to interacting with people. So don't feel bad about that, because that's what everybody's feeling. I don't feel productive, and I was working remotely before that. So I work remote no matter whether there's a pandemic or not. Don't overwork. Just do what you can. And if you're having issues meeting deadlines, or it's not what you are expecting or what your boss is expecting, talk to your boss about what you can do about that. Again, take regular breaks from your computer. Do chat up your family, friends, and colleagues, not about work. I have 2 coworkers, one in the UK and one in New Jersey, that every morning I get on there and say good morning to them, ask them how they're doing, and just see how their day's going. All in one in Ohio I talk to. And I got a few people on Twitter I talk to throughout the day, and a few people on WhatsApp. And so I'm trying to chat up enough people where, I keep distracted with stuff. And set an agreement with your boss on realistic goals based on your situation. So if you got kids at home and it's hard to do things, make them aware of it, and try to make arrangements that they're good with, that can help you out with meeting your goals. Stick to a routine. I know all our routines got thrown off by COVID because, hey, we don't have to do anything. We can work in our pajamas. We can get away with not taking showers if we wanted to. But try to stick to a routine that's similar to the one you had before, just minus the commute, and use your commute time to do something you normally wouldn't have time to do. And feel a sense of accomplishment even with something small. If you do something small, it's an accomplishment. Make to-do lists. Feel like you're doing something, check those things off. And look out for others that might be feeling alone, and help them out. And you helping them out will help you feel more fulfilled. I'm going to go back to this quote and remind you that your mental health isn't just about mental illness. It's just part of being human. So it's just part of who you are. I've got a bunch of resources on here. Here's some podcasts I listen to. There's one that's really not safe for work on here, one that's mostly safe for work. The rest of them are really good to go. Some of them are just funny. The Hilarious World of Depression, this comedian interviews other comedians, and they're funny, but they're serious at the same time. But they're all very good podcasts. Here's some blog posts, alphabetical order, that have been done in the community that I can find from the SQL people about different mental health conditions. And then here goes a whole bunch of links where I got all my research stuff from, that you can read up on more stuff. There's like 5 pages of that. I'll see if anybody has some questions that you want me to answer.
Anybody, if you have questions, just feel free to unmute yourself. I think I have all of you set so that you should be able to chime in if you need. In the meantime, if nobody's gonna chime in yet, or you still think about what you want to ask, or if you want to ask, I was just gonna mention a couple things. So, I just wanted to mention, that Tracy and I were talking before we all started, and she was talking about, counseling that she has done. And I mentioned, that I had also, sought counseling before for some anxiety a few years ago. And I think, Tracy, you'd said maybe the first person you had for counseling maybe wasn't the best person. And you're like, I don't know why I stayed with them that long. Because, and maybe if you've sought out help before and you didn't get out of it what you were looking for, don't necessarily look at that as well, this isn't for me. Maybe you just didn't have the right person, or weren't getting the right resource. So, don't give up on it. Maybe try it again. Um, my lady was actually, the person I was seeing was actually pretty good, though. By the last session I went, I was talking, I looked up, and they had actually fallen asleep while I was talking. So it did leave me with a good impression, but I had gotten to the point where, I went with, what I was going through at that time was, a lot of anxiety. I had a lot of things going on at work and at home and family life, that was away from me. And every time I tried to figure out how to thing, I always seemed to just conflict with the other thing, which made that thing worse. And if I tried to fix that thing, that made something else worse. And if I tried to fix that, that made the first thing worse. Circle. And so, the important thing I got out of that were, kind of the resources of, how to, handle those things. And I found those useful. And sometimes maybe having I don't want to say disinterested person to talk to on that, because sometimes maybe the people you would normally go to talk to about that stuff, maybe you're worried of what their opinion is going to be or how they're going to view you. So sometimes maybe having somebody who's not a friend necessarily to talk to can be easier. Maybe just it depends on you. But so yeah, if you've had a bad experience in the past, don't let that one experience just um, cloud, form your full impression of what could potentially get from it.
Yeah, I agree with that. If one therapist isn't suited for you, there's a million others out there that can be helpful. And like I said in the presentation, I think everybody at some point in their life can probably use a therapist to bounce something off of, and there's no shame at all in seeking out a therapist for different parts of your life that you need guidance through.
And another point you mentioned too, about finding somebody that you can talk to that they're not going to try and give you an answer, um, because sometimes you're not looking for an answer, you're just looking for somebody to talk to. It was an excellent one because when my sister passed away, and it was under very traumatic circumstances, um, I had a friend that I turned to when I needed to talk, and depending on the situation, I would just preface it with, "I'm not looking for an answer. I just need somebody to talk to." So don't feel obligated. You need to give me an answer because if you have a friend come to you and with a problem, you feel like, "Oh, I need to fix this." Well, some things you just
Yeah.
can't fix. You just got to get it off your chest.
Yeah, I have a friend who tries to fix everything, and I've had to teach her not to.
Yeah.
I'm being dead serious. She tries to fix everything.
Which I mean, if you're a good friend, you want to, but just some things you can't. So that's why I just start right off by saying like, I'm not looking for an answer. I got thoughts in my head. I gotta get out and I just need to talk about it. And then they would listen, and it was what I needed at that time.
Yep. Well, I'm gonna put up my thank you slide. I think. Thanks, bar. I don't know. Thank you
Uh,
slide. There we go.
Just going through questions and answers. Uh,
And then I did put the self-evaluation thing at the end just so it'd be a little easier to find when you download the presentation. So you can see where you stand and stuff, because I really do like this chart a lot. I think it's very interesting. And then, like I said, here's my contact information if anybody wants it. My email's on my website too. It's just Tracy at tracyboggiano.com. So feel free to reach out to me for anything. The slide deck's available on my website under my presentations link. I just uploaded it today, brand new. So, and if you got any comments you want to send my way about things I can improve or things I can make better, just let me know.
and
I love feedback.
And had a question asked from a couple of people asking if I'm going to make the presentation available. I did record this. Unfortunately, I spaced out right at the beginning, so I didn't click record right away. But I was able to get part of your introduction, about you in there at least. So I will get what I have out there, and I'll post a link back through the meetup. And then as far as the slide deck, Tracy, you have that on your website, tracyboggiano.com, right?
Yep. Or you got database superheroes, easy to remember, so
Superhero.com.
it
Yeah.
just redirects.
Okay.
Because nobody can spell Boggiano.
I've gotten pretty
At least
good.
that's what I find.
That hard to spell. Let's be honest. It's a simple Italian name.
I agree, but you should see the spellings I get from it and the way people pronounce it. And so I came up with somebody gave me the title database superhero, so I reserved the domain name
Oh.
and got a logo.
Hey, Tracy, thank you for doing this.
Yeah, this was
Oh, no problem.
It's not the typical. Go ahead.
This is my favorite presentation to give at this moment in time. So
It's not the typical Geek Fest type presentation, but it's got to be a difficult one to do. So it's appreciated very much.
I appreciate people asking me to do it.
Yeah.
I literally am at this point getting asked to do it, so I'm very happy about that because I think it's something that needs to be talked about more.
Absolutely. No, it's this is an important topic. I mean, we get a lot of stuff that a lot of presentations we get done. They're excellent presentations. I mean, we've had Kevin Klein present on I can't remember what we presented on now, but I mean, we get, great speakers, local speakers, national speakers that do great presentations, but I think this is an important presentation. And, it's something, like you said, there's a stigma and people just don't like to talk about it. And I think sometimes when this is one of those one of those issues where, like, when you are suffering from something like this, sometimes the last thing you ever want is for anybody to know something's wrong. But at the same time, you desperately want help. So it's kind of like a vicious circle, cycle. You can't get beyond it. So the more we talk about it, maybe the better it'll get.
And that's what I'm wanting to do is tear down the stigma behind it so people can talk about it just like you would if you had cancer, diabetes, or a broken arm or anything physical. So
Absolutely.
I know MCMs that have suffered from burnouts.
Yeah, it's just,
It's a real thing.
MVPs probably do too because you're trying to meet this invisible bar to be renewed.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Don't look at me. I'm only giving 3 presentations this week, so I'm not one of them.
And the burnout is a tricky one too, or the imposter syndrome is a tricky one too, because that's where it's like, well, people think I'm better than I really am, so I need to do more, so maybe I will be better. Well, that's not making the problem any better. You're making it worse. And so,
Oh, seriously, who among us who has spoken does not suffer from imposter syndrome at one time or another, myself included?
oh yeah, but it's one of those,
I mean, really.
yeah, it's a
This
vicious.
might be the only presentation where I'm not an imposter. And I've done tons of tech presentations. And this might be the only one where I'm not an imposter.
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
And this is the one where you come out and say that you are not a mental health professional.
yeah. But I am mental health first aid certified, so, and I serve on the mental health council for, so,
Yeah.
and I have mental health issues, so I can definitely talk on the subject matter. I did research too. Oh, it's good to be able to laugh about it a little bit.
oh, absolutely. I think there was a joke about, how'd that go? Screwing up is fine, as long as you write it down, then it's research.
I always think if you can't laugh at yourself, then don't worry, everyone else will.
There's that too, yeah.
If you can laugh at yourself, then you're fine.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else have any questions, comments, feedback? I will try in the next 24 hours to get the recording of this uploaded. And again, I believe this slide deck is available right now through databasesuperhero.com. So if
Yep.
you the sooner, it's there. And of course, through the uh, powers of the internet, if this is something you would like to see again, Tracy, I think you put all your meetings that you're presenting at on your website, so you might be able to
Yep.
travel to the
I
others.
have I got a recorded version of this from where I did it for the professional development virtual chapter, but I don't know if it has COVID in it, or I know it doesn't have that chart I did for the self-evaluation in it. But I don't think I've got this one scheduled currently, but it probably will be in the future because I applied to talk to everything. As you can tell by my 3 talks in 5 days this week. But it's every other day at least.
Well, don't over commit yourself, because you're doing great stuff here. Really appreciate this, and I guess if that's it for now, we will close this one out. I will be figuring out the schedule for the rest of next year. For our presentations, I know I have February booked. Most likely there's going to be some
And January.
oh yeah, in January, because so Lansing Group and Detroit Group are going to be joining forces because, well, the commute's just as easily done for anybody now for whether you want to go to Detroit or Lansing, because we're all online. So we're going to be joining forces. Ed,
I know Jeff and my commute from our group to your group, it sure has gotten a lot better recently.
yeah, yeah, that the commute around Wixom is that area
Yes.
don't exist anymore.
Yep.
Well, if you'd like one of my tech talks, let me know.
I will be reaching out for sure.
Yeah, we will. Definitely. Thank you. What's your favorite, geekiest, most hardcore one to do?
One I don't do anymore.
Oh, you want
I
to?
need to update it. I need to update it so I can do it. I like doing my HADR talk. Where
Okay.
it just goes through all the options you can do. It has no demos because like you can't do demos when there's all these options. But it goes through like backup restores, DAC packs, mirroring, replication, DAGs. It needs some updating because I hadn't done it in a couple of years. But right now, my favorite one is my DBA checks and DBA tools one. I've been doing my query sort one for too long, even though I wrote a book on it.
Nice. Well,
So your query store one is the one you don't like, and you like your DBA tools one, huh?
Yeah. Well, see, I've been doing query store since it was CTP in 2016, and then I wrote a book on it.
Right.
So it's like I've done it a lot. I still
I
submit
know
it and
what you
do
mean.
it.
I have that
And then-
presentation as well.
And then Aaron Stellato presents on it more than I do, so it's just like Grant. So I'm just like I submit it to events and it gets selected sometimes. I think I'm doing it next month.
okay.
But I did a lot of work with DBA checks for security compliance.